can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Hey, everybody. This is John Corcoran with Dr. Jeremy Wise, and this episode is a little bit different. This is a live interview that we recorded at the Global Leadership Conference from Entrepreneurs Organization, where some of the best entrepreneurs from around the globe gathered in Washington, D.C. to share ideas and to learn about entrepreneurship. And of course, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25, where we help B2B businesses to give to and to connect to their Dream 100 relationships and partnerships, helping you to run a podcast so that it generates a referral pipeline and ROI.
Yeah, I mean, John, after both of us have been podcasting for over a decade, the number one thing in our life is relationships. And we're always looking at ways to give to our best relationships. And we found no better way to do that over the past decade than to profile the people and companies we admire and shout from the rooftops what they're working on. And this interview is no different. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should go to rise25.com to learn more, or email us at support@rise25.com.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the interview.
Enjoy. Jeremy Weiss here. We're live at EOGLC, brought to you by Rise 25. I'm here with Jamie. And Jamie, tell people about your company and what you do.
Absolutely. Jamie Douraghy. My company is called LifeWork Integration. I essentially coach and facilitate executives and their teams to bring clarity to them.
So you've done work with your wife in business. Talk about the dynamic with, doing business with your wife.
Actually, very special dynamic. We worked together for many, many years. The staffing company we run together is Artisan Creative, and it provides freelance graphic artists and designers. And there were times where we really had to jockey for who's the boss at home.
Women always wins, right?
Absolutely. And that's why she's the president, and I'm sort of the founder role. And during that transition, I discovered my purpose and my why, and that's really to bring clarity to leaders so that the people that they work with can fully understand where they're going.
From the beginning, was it a clear decision on, the decision-making tree with you and your wife, or did that just evolve over time with discovering what roles you were each going to play?
It really was not clear at first, and there were a lot of conversations, both on-site and off-site, if you will. And during those conversations, we started to unravel and understand what each other's strengths were, and how do we play to those strengths, versus kind of dealing with each other's weaknesses and then pointing them out. And when we came from a position of positivity and strength, it really opened up our conversations, where it was very clear that she was better in that role as the operator, and I was probably stronger as the visionary.
Sometimes that's hard to do in the heat of an argument or something. So when you're in the midst of some debate, now do you go back to that place, or how do you actually get into the mental clarity of, here we're at here and we need to get to the next place without, coming at each other from a negative perspective?
What we learned over time is the importance of learning how to connect versus having to be correct. And when we were able to draw that distinction between the two, we're able to take that step back before we say something without thinking. And so we put that little bit of thought just before, and then turn it to what can we do together versus what are you doing against what am I doing. Our goals are the same, our objectives are the same. How we go about doing that is where differences start to take hold and take root, and if you're able to bring them together, you're actually more powerful.
You were telling me, Jamie, that you'd worked with a healthcare staffing company.
Yes, I work with the CEO and his team. I'm also a certified Clifton StrengthsFinder coach, and what we did was bring StrengthsFinder in as a tool to create the conversation. So as he was leveling up his team, the more clarity he had, the more clarity they had. And when that became apparent to the buyers of his company, then they realized that they had a very powerful culture that was clear on communication, and it actually facilitated the transaction because it made it clear to the buyers that this company knew why they were doing what they were doing.
What issues do people come to you with typically, like that, the healthcare staffing?
Generally, when I meet with the CEO, they are in a transitionary period. There's a huge opportunity in front of them, and they're not quite sure which route to take. And so I am sometimes one of many people that they should be speaking with to get a full 360-degree picture. Because when you've brought something into this world and now you're handing it over to someone else, one starts to wonder, what's next? Who am I? Who am I becoming? I know who I was a CEO. And how do I leave that identity behind and bring something new into the world?
Jamie, tell people about your background in fencing, and maybe I want to talk about how fencing is like life a little bit, but what's your background in fencing?
Great question, thank you. I've been fencing since I was 17. I've been fencing for 45 years, so you can do the math.
So what happened? Why did you start fencing at 17?
It was a sport that was offered that it spoke to me, if you will. I walked into the fencing club, I saw the coach, I saw what the fencers were doing, and I just said, I want to be part of that. And what I've learned about myself is when it's mask on, game on. And when the mask is off, you shake hands and you go out and you have a good time. So there are moments in our lives where we have to be intensely focused. However, that focus is a result of practice, that focus is a result of learning, that focus is a result of training for that moment where you will be hopefully on the podium. You don't make the podium every day. And sometimes you're at the top, you're next to the guy on the top, or you're down, or you're not even on the podium. And I use fencing as a metaphor for how we handle life under pressure. In fact, my book, On Guard and On Point, it's mastering the duel between life and work. And that's really what I try to bring, is clarity that when you can integrate those two, one can lead a more fulfilling life.
What's a story from, I didn't know if you had a book, but I was going to say Mask on, Game On is a great title for your next book.
Yes.
Okay. What's one favorite story or lesson from the book?
For one lesson for the story of the book is that one always needs a coach. And even though I'm at the age that I have a coach who's 30 years younger than me, so I can continuously learn. It's about being the student. Even though you may feel you're a master, you really are a student. A good example was, in January I won my age group tournament to qualify for the world team. There's 3 tournaments. I went into the next tournament in March. Big guy, I'm going to win this. I didn't even make the top 8 because the guy who wanted that wanted it more than me. I learned an important lesson there. Because it doesn't matter what you did at the last tournament, it's what you're doing in the moment right now. I'm still in the running, I have one more tournament, and if I can make the top 8 there, I'll qualify for the world team, which will be my 9th world team.
That's unbelievable. Where can people check out on the web to learn more about you, your book, and your company?
It's jdouraghy.com, Douraghy. It's my first initial, my last name, my information's there. Same on LinkedIn and same on Twitter.
And just restate the name of the book so people can check it out. Where can they get that?
The book is On Guard and On Point, and it's on Amazon.com.
Check it out, live from GLC.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like $100 grand.